All right. Good morning. Happy Saturday. And we have something different, a very ambitious training schedule. We are going to cram a couple hours worth of training into 45 minutes. So if you're new with us, just pick up as much as you can, get the high points, get the big bullet items and so on. I wanted to walk through a couple things real quick that maybe some folks are not aware of, some additional resources that you can have, um, some additional resources that you can have. I better switch over to my wife's Facebook here. Sometimes my friends send me things that are not appropriate to be shared. Um, and, um, and
Sorry, Brian.
and so Champions Coaching on the Facebook, another additional resource place for you to find information and training. And just to let you know, down the side here, you see there it says discussion, units, announces, members, events, videos. There's a couple things I want to point your attention. First one is units. Now units, it means training, different training pieces, getting a fast start, field training. So that's unit 1. Unit 3 is prospecting. So I would encourage you to go through, and it will track what you've actually done, where you've left off, and what you've completed, and then you mark it off as done. So you don't, you're not going back and redoing. You get a green check mark here that says you've completed that. So don't be overwhelmed by the training. Know that it's there, it's available, and work your way through it. Sometimes it's just a question of being aware that it's there, right? So that you're not really sure what it means or what it's all about, but you may encounter it later on in your career and you go, yeah, I remember seeing something like that in the training. The other is you can use this search box to do a keyword search. So if you wanted to search for what post did we have, because the problem with the Facebook group is when you post it, it falls down the page. And anything that was tagged with the word IUL, you see it highlights the word IUL in here, and it will bring up all that. So if you're looking for something in particular, that will bring that up, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing that I wanted to bring up, and I wanted to say thank you to Desiree for making this a fillable PDF, and we will get that out to you, which means that now you see the little grayed out boxes. You just put your mouse in there and you check it and you check it and you check it as you go through, and you can fill this out as a fillable PDF. You are a superstar. So now you can put in name, etc., whatever, and these are all fillable fields. And the nice thing about the radial check buttons is you just have to check off where they're at. Makes it simple, quick to do, and doing it on a Zoom meeting. So that's great. What are their priorities? High priority, medium priority, and so on. So Nick, can you give us a round of applause for that? Thank you, Desiree. We caught Nick sleeping.
No problem, y'all.
No, I just didn't have this thing handy. I was like, where the hell?
Yeah, I got to get me one of those. So that's the first thing. Second is a new website that we just set up, and eventually we will have all of our Zoom meetings on here as well. Nathan is going to set that up. Thank you, Mr. Larry, for standing up this site. And on this site, we're talking about climbing the mountain, and we're talking about descending the mountain, right? And climbing the mountain, these are phenomenal videos that you can use to explain what it is that we do. In other words, you don't have to be the splainer. Let the videos do the splaining. And if you've watched any of these web pres videos before, they're fantastic. I think there's 3 videos we're going to be using. One is IUL, how it works. Number 2 is living benefits and how living benefits work. And then number 3 is why become a referral agent. And we just stood this up this morning, so give us a couple days to really perfect it a little bit better. Thank you, Mr. Larry. Let's give Mr. Larry a round of applause. There we go. All right. Also on here will be uh, the retirement hero. And the retirement hero will be what we're going to talk about today. And that is a game changer. We've been saying, and you've been hearing me say over and over again, Index Universal Life beats them all. Index Universal Life beats IRA, beats 401k, beats Roth IRA, beats 401k with a match. And why is that? Well, it has to do with leveraged loans. There is no better cash flow maximizer than this. It beats a 401k with a 100% match. And this is a bulletproof comparison. And we're going to go through that a little bit here today. Okay. So let me jump into what we're going to talk about today. And that is the great Wall Street deception and deceiving folks with numbers. Now, we had a discussion this week with an agent. We seem to be running into a lot of agents from this company, and I'll leave the company nameless. Let's just say it starts with a P and ends with America, right? And the agent said that the average return in the stock market from 1929 was 12 point or 10 point whatever percent, double digits return. And where that may be true, let me show you how deceiving that really is. Okay, and average rates of return are used when you want to sell mutual funds. Average rates of return are used for, the only thing they're useful for is selling 401k mutual funds and so on. And I'll show you what the real rates of return are here in just a minute. Before we do, we also want to talk about the impact of losses. Now, we're going to come back to the real secrets when it comes to money and finance. The real secrets are rule number one, never lose money, right? And Warren Buffett says, there's only two rules when it comes to investing. Rule number one is never lose money. Rule number two is when in doubt, see rule number one, right? Never lose money. And the reasons for that is it takes a lot to overcome losses, to recover from those losses. And we're assuming, of course, that the market will be higher in the future. And of course, we've seen what happens in Japan and the Nikkei 225 and so on. So what are the key points that we can take away from this graph? Well, let's take a look at the beginning here and talk about avoiding the losses, right? So the gains that are required to recover from a loss are exponential. That's a very fancy word. They're big, they're gigantuan. That takes a lot more to come back from a loss than the loss itself. A lot of people think, well, if I was down 10% and the market comes back up 10%, I should be even, but it's not true, right? And the bigger the loss, the larger amount that is required in order to recover. And let's take a look at some of the more memorable declines in the market. Of course, the Great Depression down 89%. 73, 74, the oil embargo, all that down 49%. The S&P, the dot-com bubble bust, 2000, 49%. And then again in 2000, 2002, and then the financial meltdown, 2007, 2009, down 57%. So let's take a look at the NASDAQ down 78%. What does it take to recover if you're down 78%? Well, that's somewhere beyond 70, but below 80%. That means that you have to have a gain of 250, 300% just to recover from the down. And again, we represent that with the red line and the green line on our charts that we do on the discovery call. We want to make sure that people understand this. Furthermore, depending on where you are in your savings plan and your savings history, especially in the retirement red zone, when you're getting ready to retire, these losses could be unrecoverable, meaning you will be wiped out financially, and many people, unfortunately, have been. So, and we're going to talk about David McKnight's new book, The Volatility Shield, and what sequence of returns really means. So sequence of returns, and you've probably heard our friend Tom Hegna talk about sequence of returns. What does that mean? That means what are the order of the returns that you're getting? In other words, it's not going to be a steady up 8% or 10% or whatever they happen to be claiming. It's going to wild swings up and down. And depending on where you are in those sequence of the returns, the averages may be okay, but it's the sequence of returns that can absolutely wipe you out. Secondly, if you look at again, this is averages, how deceiving and deceptive averages are. If you look at the market, let's say we go 1929, the averages, 10%, 11%, 12%, whatever the claims are, that means that you should be able to safely take out 8% per year. Doesn't that make sense? The market's average 12%. And if I were to take out 8% per year, I should be safe. In fact, if I wanted to be really conservative, I would withdraw from my account 6% per year and I should be just fine. Well, it doesn't work that way. And we'll examine that with David McKnight's new book, The Volatility Shield. Okay, we're going to give you a lot of numbers. So hang in there with the numbers because the big picture is what's going to be important here. There's a difference between the arithmetic mean and the compound annual average growth rate. Okay, that sounds kind of confusing. What the CAGR is, compound annual growth rate, is the actual money, your actual growth rate, not the arithmetic mean. And let me go through and explain what that means. Okay, so if you had $100,000, the first bullet point on here, $100,000, and it doubled to $200,000. Remember the rule of 72 and compound interest, right? We'll come back to that. The gain is 100%. Okay, so you got to double out of that. That means that your average rate of return is 10%. So if you divided 10 years into if you had a double rather in 10 years, that means that you're averaging 7.2%, right? Because 10 goes into 72 7.2 times. Just remember the rule of 72 and compound interest. That's your real measure. But the average rate of return in this case is 10%. Your real rate of return was 7.2 because that's a double. Okay, if it doubles again in 20 years to $400,000, that's a 200% gain, and the average return is 15%. But guess what? The compound annual average growth rate, the CAGR, is still 7.2. If it doubles again in 30 years to 800,000, that's a 700% gain, and the average annual rate of return is 23.3%. That's the same thing that we keep saying over and over again. It doubled, it doubled, it doubled, it doubled. And what's the rule of 72 tell you? How often your money doubles. The average compound rate of return is still 7.2. But if I wanted to sell mutual funds and I wanted to sell 401ks and so on, what would I use? I would use the average annual return. Because I could say over the past 30 years, we had a 23.3% average annual rate of return. And I would not be lying. I'd be misleading, but I wouldn't be lying, right? So the more time that's measured, the greater the average rate of return is. Now, why is that? I don't know. I'm not a math genius. I don't know the stuff behind it. I just know that what I know is the only return that matters is the compound annual growth rate, because that tells me how much money I have. Simple averages don't equate to compound numbers. It doesn't work out that way. And let me give you another example. Average rate of return. If the market started out day one with $100,000, you go up 100%. So it goes up to $200,000, and then it goes down 50%. And then it goes up 100% and it goes down 50%. So you started with $100,000. You ended with $100,000. What is your average return? 25%. What is your compound annual growth rate? Your CAGR is 0. So which number really matters? Well, if you want to sell 401ks, you can say, hey, we had a 25% average return. If you wanted to tell the honest truth and you understood what the honest truth was, unfortunately, a lot of people that sell this stuff don't even know this, but the only return that matters is the compound annual growth rate. Another example, $100,000, 100% up, 50% down. That's what that little minus sign, you kind of see it there. And then it goes down another 50%. What is the average, return? Well, the average return in this case would be 0, but the real return is you're down $50,000. The compound annual growth rate is a minus 50%. The average return is 0. It's extremely deceptive. So there's a tool that we can use to independently verify, to use these numbers, and I'll show it to you here in a second. But the stock market, the CAGR, right, the compound annual growth rate before fees and including dividends. What does that mean? Well, most mutual funds are not including the dividends, and they do include fees. So we're going to take a look here at the best 18 years, the best 18-year slice that you can find in the market. And the average return was 4.37%, and the compound annual growth rate was 2.85%. So, Mr. Agent from the other company, where in the heck do you get a 12% average return from? I can't figure it out. If we put the numbers out and we said this is from 2000 through 2018, the best 18-year slice that we could find in the market, the average return is 4.37%, and the compound annual growth rate is 2.85%. The best. And we have included dividends in this, and we have not subtracted mutual fund fees, and we have not subtracted 401k fees, which of course would lower that return. By the way, this is the link here. I have it on the Facebook group. It's the Money Chimp features and so on. So you can plug in these numbers, the date range, and whether you want to adjust for inflation or include or exclude dividends, and use it for the S&P 500. Okay? How you guys doing with that?
That is awesome.
Isn't that great stuff? Okay, so that's a new tool in your arsenal when somebody says, hey, the stock market's averaged 12% since 1929. Really? What does that mean? Have you ever really examined what that means? And by the way, when you say the average annual return, are you talking about the compound annual growth rate, which is the only one that matters? And are you taking into consideration sequence of returns? Have you factored in fees and expenses? And we didn't even talk about taxes. Any questions on that? Did I cover that too fast?
Yeah, that is huge. The numbers don't lie.
To add a little more insult to the injury, there is a company out there that does studies, and it's called Dalbar. And Dalbar, this is somebody who, we're comparing this to somebody who did buy and hold and never did anything else with it, right? What Dalbar has said is that the average investor could mess this all up, and they do regularly, that they end up with lower returns than what and by the way, we're using the S&P 500. 95% of mutual funds underperform the S&P 500. So we'll start there, right? Make it insult to injury and add further to the declines is the average investor doesn't buy and hold. They panic. They get into the market late. They do everything wrong, especially if they're not following some prudent advice or working with a good advisor. They do everything wrong, and they end up with even worse returns than 2.85% during the best bull market in history. Okay? All right, good deal. So I know I went through that quick. If you didn't get it the first time, I would take out a sheet of paper and go through these. I'll put the slides up. You can have them. We'll have the video go walk through that again, because this is really, really important. Now, when somebody makes a statement to me that the stock market returns have been 12% since 1929, first of all, the market returns, the market in the world were a different place in 1929. And what does the world economy since 1929 doesn't resemble our current market economy at all. I would say really the more accurate portrayal of the market has been recent history. Probably the last 20 years would be a much more accurate depiction of, you know, where we're headed. So from 2000 through today, and again, that's the best slice, 2000 through 2018, the longest running bull market in history. Now we can update these numbers for 2019 as well, and I will, but it's not going to change or affect much of that at all. All right,
hey, Brian.
Yes, sir.
Hi, this is Blake. I was going to ask you two questions on that. Was that MailChimp is not connected to the OnPoint software, is it, or is it?
It's not. That's something different.
Okay. And the second part of that question is, how difficult is it to, like you say, load in? I mean, yours in an 18-year period. I don't know, 20 years. How difficult is it to put everything back to 1920s or whatever? Is it just a time factor, or is it just they don't allow more than 18 years?
Well, the S&P 500, I think, in its current format, was 1956. So I don't think it'll go back that far for the S&P 500. You know, that's a good question. I guess we could always take a look at that. You know, a lot of the indexes don't go back far enough to do that.
But we could just go to that site ourselves, right, and play with it. Is what you're saying.
And right here, if it takes the number January 1st, whatever, 1929, to whatever day you want, yeah, you can go to that site and do it yourself. And that's an eye opener. That's a real, you know, and again, you know, when we talk about on our discovery calls, we talk about how the American people have been deceived. This is a huge one right here. This is this is huge. Okay, cool. Any other questions on that? Blake, did I answer that question?
Yes, sir, you did. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on that? Is that clear as mud? Jamel, is that clear as mud to you?
Yes, sir, indeed. I got it.
All right, good deal. And look, if the only thing you take away from this is to go, hey, averages can be misleading and deceptive. We want to know what the compound annual growth rate is, because that's what matters.
Got it.
Cool. All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, it's one thing to tell somebody something. It's another to actually show them, you know?
Right.
And just a heads up for everybody on the call, if you want to say something, if you press your space bar down, it'll unmute you temporarily, and when you let it go, it'll go back to mute. That way you don't have like your background noise still floating in and not realize you're not muted.
Oh, that's very good. Thanks for that tip. Hey, Brian, since I'm pressing my space bar, do you guys subscribe to Dalbar annually?
No. We get the summary. Do you?
Yeah, I get the summary. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I get the summaries. And you know, it's amazing, you know, the average investor screws it all up. You left to their own devices, they mess it all up because the markets are driven by two primary emotions: fear and greed. And for the average person, the average investor, they think they've got their emotions under control, but they really don't. Okay, so Mr. Larry, are you there, bud?
Yes, sir.
Anything you want to add to? You sent me something that I'm gonna come back and look at the flaw of averages. But anything you want to add to our average discussion here before we move on to the next piece?
Well, I mean, you capsulized it right. You know, the only time annual average is any good is if you're trying to sell mutual fund or you know, money under management. Talking about your portfolio, it does you absolutely no good when you start to withdraw. Always remember the rules going up the mountain change when you get to the top of the mountain and start down. It's not about accumulation, it's about distribution. And it's also about how much do you take out? You know, how much money do you have, and how do you take it out? And when you take it out is the trick to how long you're going to have money. The statistic today is that most people today will run out of money 15 years before they die. That's no bueno. But part of it is a lot of reasons for it. Anyway, long story short, you did a great job with all that.
Thank you, Mr. Larry. You know, and to come back to that is the conventional wisdom used to be 4% was the safe withdrawal rate, meaning you could safely withdraw 4% and not run out of money. Well, that's no longer the case. In fact, Morningstar is saying that that safe withdrawal rate is less than 3%. Some are saying 2.5%. Some are saying 2%. So how in the world, Mr. Agent from another company, how in the world could the market be averaging 10, 11, 12%, and yet the safe withdrawal rate is only 1 or 2%, maybe 3% at the most? It just doesn't, it defies common sense. Now, as we switch into the next piece, we'll give you the conceptual reasons for why this works. And we talked about this on the Rise and Shine call the other day. Why is it that Index Universal Life beats 401k, 401k with a match, IRA, 403b, 457, all the tax deferred plans, Roth IRA, which is the tax-free plan? How is it that it beats that and generates more cash and more income than the others, net of fees, net of taxes, and so on? Here's the game changer. We said rule number 1 is never lose money. Rule number 2 is never pay more taxes than you absolutely have to. And rule number 3 is never let your money stop compounding. Okay? So what that means is if you're taking money out of your Index Universal Life and you're withdrawing it via policy loans, which keeps them tax-free, you never have to pay those loans back. The death benefit, when the inevitable comes, and none of us, by the way, is getting out of here alive. No one's getting off this planet alive. And you know, maybe a couple astronauts, I don't know. But the bottom line is if you're taking money out via policy loans, the death benefit pays it back. So if the interest rate on a policy loan is 4% and you're averaging a 6% growth rate on your account. So what you're doing is you're taking the money out and pledging your policy as collateral. Think about it like a home equity loan, right? You borrow against the equity in your property, but your property still appreciates in value. And the interest on the loan gets added back to the loan and gets paid back when you die. So if the average spread means you're earning 2% more on your money, on the entire balance of your account, that's 2% on the entire balance, positive cash flow. Now, it doesn't work that way every year because the market goes up and down. Some years it's more, some years it's less. But if we just said 2% overall is what you're earning. Well, 2% on $1 million is 20 grand a year. The example that I gave the other day on the Rise and Shine call is I said, if you had $1 million, and let's ignore taxes for now, you had $1 million in your 401k, and you took $1 million out and spent it, how much money do you earn on your 401k next year? Well, the answer is 0, right? It's not a trick question. Okay, now if you had $1 million in your Index Universal Life and you borrowed it out at 4% interest, it cost you $40,000 in interest to do that. If at the same time you were also earning 6%, that's $60,000, you have a net positive cash flow of $20,000. If you did that, we took out $1 million and spent it, how much do I earn on my Index Universal Life? $20,000. If I did that for 10 years, how much did I earn on my Index Universal Life? 10 times $20,000 is 200 grand. If I did that for 20 years, that's $400,000. Remember, 20 years before, I had spent the 401k and the money in my 401k. It's gone. I'm still earning on my Index Universal Life. That's why we can beat 401k, 401k with a match, all that stuff. Now, Mr. Larry, you and I were talking about what's happening in the world of 401ks. I said that the statistics before the COVID was more than half of folks in a 401k do not even get a match. And you said that a lot of companies now are eliminating the match. What was the number on that?
Well, within the first month of the pandemic, 22% reported 22% of the companies that were matching have ceased matching. Companies are tightening the ship. You know, they're locking those waterproof doors. You know, that they're suspending dividends and they're suspending matches. So you can't depend on a match today anyway.
Right. And Mr. Larry, you are the resident expert on this software program. So would you be so kind as to explain this report to us?
Sure. So we bought a piece of software that does the heavy lifting for us. And if you're ambivalent about selling IULs, I'm about to fix that for you. I'm about to show you how to take that guy who starts with a P and ends with America right to the woodshed. So what we did is that so the way this works, because we didn't load that up, the way this works is that we take an IUL illustration. It has to be out of 8 carriers, but we sell those. You know, we use those carriers. Ameritas is one of them. And you run the illustrations with expenses, and Brian can show you how to turn that on if you need to. And then you take that illustration and you suck it up into the software, just in a PDF, right? And then your other choices then become, when you set the other side up, you can compare it to a taxable account, like as if they were just putting money in the stock market, or you can compare it to an IUL, to a 401k by itself. You can compare it to a 401k if they're getting a match. And you can compare it to, obviously, what works for the 401k works for the IRA and the rest of it. But you can also turn off the tax assumptions, and it'll give you the analysis compared to a Roth. And so that's kind of how you get there. And then it produces a really spiffy report. And so this is page 2. It gives them, you sort of get a third-party endorsement. There's your Dalbar study that's up in there. It talks about all the reasons for having an IUL. These guys missed one because we didn't talk about the rest of the living benefits, but he does talk about chronic illness down here at the bottom for long-term care. And then it talks about, creating wealth. And so it talks about, here's your problems if you got a mutual fund. And, most people that have money in the market have them in a mutual fund, which is kind of why he tackles it this way. So you got no downside risk. There's nobody much in America that would argue with that today. It's in a tax hostile environment. Some experts say that we will be at a $30 trillion, 30 trillion with a T dollar, debt balance in the United States by September, okay? So listen, y'all have heard him do it. We got a math problem, and trying to save everybody and his dog, whether it's right or wrong, is going to come at a cost. And that cost is it's going to go to the debt. So anyway, taxes are going up. Mutual funds are expensive. And here's the cool part that nobody will tell you is that that money under management, mutual funds or all that kind of stuff, they make money on you going up. They make money on you going down because of the way the fees are accumulated. And you can argue, you can argue about what fees are and are not. This guy, we use a very conservative number for the fees. And of course, you never know which stock or fund is going to do it. So that's kind of that part. Slide on down there for me, Brian. Anyway, there's the kind of a quick picture of how locking growth in a plan begins, and we've done that before, but a lot of our clients would like to see that. So here's a little quick snapshot of the pluses and the minuses of this and that. And then we talk about the tax deferred, whether you want to pay taxes on the seed or on the harvest. And it gives you a little summary. All right. So eventually, when you get down to this is the magic page here, I think, coming up. No, we're getting there though. Come on. Oh, well, actually stop, Brian. The go up one. You need to take this part right here and burn it into your memory. This is what makes an IUL the deal when it comes to withdrawal. Okay, and that Brian's talked about that earlier. It's all about arbitrage. It's all about buy low, sell high. It's all about locking in what it costs you, so that it can go on forever, right? If you get nothing else out of this thing, understand that you cannot outrun the money in an IUL, assuming the world is not collapsed, right? All right, come on down, and I'll show you the numbers. These are real. I didn't make these up numbers. What is it Tom Hegna says? These are scientific financial facts, not my opinion. So this little example was the lady. We happen to have an illustration laying around. The lady was 31 years old. She wanted to we wrote the case. We put $300 a month into an IUL. He automatically, based on the tax bracket that you plug in, to be fair, he shows what the net, you could put, if you got $3,600 net, then it would be equivalent to $4,235 gross. And so he makes all these assumptions, right? And all these numbers, the input numbers, the assumed interest rate here came off of the illustration, and the before and after tax rate is an input that you stick in, all right?
Sorry about that, Mr. Larry.
That's right. And so here's your summary. Here's your side-by-side summary. So in a 401k with no match, I didn't do the match on this particular one. That $4,300 or whatever it is they're putting into this thing annually will produce $30,000. Go the other side, $30,794 annual after-tax cash flow. Not bad. But look at what the IUL did with the same amount of investment net, $300 a month, is going to produce $67,790 annual after-tax cash flow. You can see the difference in the total. If they live to be 94, and listen, all you young people on this call, Jamela, all you young people on the call, I know how old Blake is. Chances are good y'all gonna live to be 94, right? People y'all are talking to, the millennials, if they don't get hit by a bus or whatever, the chances are good they're gonna make 94. And so look at the difference in the cash flow between the two. You know, we you know, you might as well be prepared to fight all the battles. Well, an IUL costs too much. The fees are too high. Right? Well, we fixed that for you. The total expense in that IUL policy, because again, we didn't make that up. It came off of the IUL illustration sheets where the company gave those to us compared to the total expenses over here on the 401k. Right? Got it? That picture right there is hey, Nathan, that picture right there make a good tattoo. I'm just saying. So slide on down for me. I think that's it, Brian. But in the rest of this report, come on down. In the rest of this report.
Yeah, I was just going to say before we moved on, do you guys happen to notice the color? Green.
Okay, oh yeah.
Green line, red line.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's just kind of a little total snappy shot thing for you. And then the rest of the pages, I'm pretty sure, if you can slide on down, Brian. For those of you that like graphs, for those of you that are, you know, engineering kind of people, there's your graphs. Hey, Nathan, which would you rather have, the blue or the yellow or the gold? Right? You get the picture. Slide on down. And again, these things like graphs. I'm not a graph kind of guy. Come on down. And then we've put in here, here's what I want you to see. We've put in here all the source documents for how we came to the conclusion. Side by side. There's your inputs. And then it just, you know, rolls on all the way down to, you know, I mean, the rest of the page is pretty much to the last one, which is sort of the summary, or all of the illustration, all of the data that they summarize is here. We're not holding anything back. You know, there's no smoke and mirrors and any of that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's kind of the report, right? Listen, I ain't the smartest knife in the drawer, but I'm pretty sure I can sell an IUL with that tool.
I'm doing it without.
Yeah, exactly.
When I have this at my disposal. Thanks, Larry. Genius. Thank you so much.
So this is so awesome. I just okay, so I'm clear on almost everything, but I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the 10-year vesting. Can we go into that a little bit, and can you guys explain that to me and how that works?
What do you mean by vesting?
Okay, so you have to, I guess, contribute to the IUL for 10 years before you're vested, right? Is that right?
Well, not actually, but generally speaking, there's 10 years in surrender charges. Now, let me back up for a second. We never go into a policy with the intention of surrender, because that's a catastrophe, right? In other words, surrender means we take the policy, send it back to the company and say, give me back my money.
Yeah.
That's a catastrophe. IUL is designed to be in place for your entire life. It's designed to build up cash value and then disperse cash value. Pension, right? Now, in the only thing that I can think of in the first 10 years when you refer to the vesting is there are surrender charges usually for the first 10 years.
Okay. So vesting isn't something that, like a benchmark that you have to meet before you can start?
Jamel, the only time you'll see vesting in this conversation is if they're getting a 401k match.
Okay.
That's where the vesting conversation happens, because if they're getting an employee match, and every company's different how they build up their 401k, but you've got to stay inside that company for X number of years. And again, it varies by company before they vest into the match, right? So if it's a 7-year vesting period and they stay 8 years or whatever, they get the money, and leave, they get the match. If they stay 6 years and leave, they don't get to take the match, okay? There is no real term vesting in an IUL, but just remember, you know, the
I see.
IUL start, as far as cash goes, starts small and grows big, right? It takes it takes a while, for these IULs to start to generate the cash. But once it starts generating the cash, then it generates very fast and very quick because it's compounding, right?
Right. So I guess what I was trying to, get clarity on was what vesting really meant. Because I remember going over this and someone mentioning having to be in the IUL for at least 10 years before something happened. And that just kind of stuck with me. So,
Well, what happens is that this is not a short-term deal. This isn't a bank account, right? I mean, it's not even where you can put money in and take money out. If you go into a policy and think you're going to pull it out in 2-3 years, it's going to be painful, right? Because the company is already paid. Think about it. The company is paying the agent's money on the front end, right? I mean, it's going to take them. They got the death benefit they got to cover. I mean, there's cost involved in them, and so the cash value is not designed to be taken out early. So I think that might be the case, right? I don't know what it is here, but you can if you look down to, let's see, somewhere about the 9th year, maybe, no, 10th year, the 10th year, well, a little sooner, but anyway, you can see at the 10th year, you put $3,600 in it, right, in the yellow one, and you got the accumulation value, cash value is $38,718. So you're ahead of the game. But again, an IUL, the power of the IUL is not in the accumulation. The power of the IUL is in the distribution. Because slide on down, Brian. Does that thing show?
And before I do, I just wanted to point out, you see the difference between the accumulation value and the cash value. That's your money. You're 100% vested in there. But the difference between the two is a surrender charge. Yes. And that surrender charge goes away down here. You can see where this money now equals this money. And if you compare the cash account, let's say at year number 10, the money that you have in your IUL is $38,000 versus your 401k, you might say, well, it looks like the 401k is winning, right? And then if you go down further, let me clear this. If you go down further, as Mr. Larry was saying, when you get out to, I think we started at age 70, yeah. So age 70, you start taking money out of the account. Which one is going to run out of money faster? Is that what you wanted to show, Larry?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if this thing trails out to 94 or whatever that age was we're using, you'll see quickly how this thing, where the power of this thing happens. You quit putting money in it many, many years ago, and you're still drawing. Well, here it is at the bottom. You've put $140,000 into this puppy, and it's going to, if you live to be 94, and it's going to produce $1.7 million for you. So there's your rate of return. It's in the distribution side, Jamila. But if you go back up, Brian,
I can kind of conceptualize where you guys are going. As long as the policy isn't surrendered, then that, I guess, the vesting wouldn't matter.
But yes. You never want to slide back up to year 10. Can you, Brian?
Yes. Okay. If I can add to that. So the versatility of it is, instead of pulling your money out, is to borrow against it.
There you go, Nathan.
Right.
If you look at year 10, just across the ledger, as Brian said, it does look like the 401k is working a little ahead of you, right? Until you go to pull the money out. You go at that age, she's 40-something years old, 41 years old. She goes and pulls that money out of that 401k. She's going to pay a 10% penalty. They've already lost $4,000. And then she's going to pay tax at whatever her taxable income level is that year. I'm guessing she'd be much better if it was just call the dogs and spit on the fire, she's going to be still ahead of the curve on the 10-year deal, cashing it in on the IUL. But as Nathan said, the magic here ain't taking it out. The magic is borrow it out, because the
Right.
arbitrage is still in your favor.
Right, got it. Okay, thank you. You guys cleared it up. Thank you.
Clear as mud. Cool. So that's that tool. By the way, the game changer for that tool is the power of death benefit, the power of living benefits, the power of chronic, critical, long-term care. Absolutely. But if I go to somebody and I say, how much can you spend on your life insurance? They're looking to spend as little as possible on their life insurance. On the other hand, if I say, how much can you save for your financial future? How much money are you putting in the 401k? So instead of paying, $60, $80 a month for a term life policy, now they're thinking in terms of, well, I can put away $500, I could put away $1,000 a month. I'm putting away $1,000 a month in my 401k right now. So now you just went from a $450 premium to a $12,000 premium. And of course, the client is the ultimate winner. Good stuff. By the way, on our page, we will have that. And what we're also going to do here. Look, we don't necessarily want to be running these analysis for someone that's going to put $100 a month into an IUL, right? Or someone just kind of getting started. And we will. But we much rather do it for somebody that's saying, hey, I'm contributing to a 401k. They've got a little bit more means and so on. But what we're going to do on this website is we're going to put together a couple of generic and demonstrations on how it beats 401k, Roth IRA, 401k with a match, and some various age groups, and put them into an analysis like this, like you just saw on our website, on our page. So
By the way, Brian, that embed will allow you to see the whole thing. I don't know whether I told you that.
And how do I?
So slide, there you go. And there's page 1 through 18.
Look at that.
Slide across it and everything will show.
Wow, that's great.
Freaking awesome.
So now you've got it on the site, and now you can, and by the way, we're in here, of course, we will have videos on living benefits. We'll have all of the let's see if I can get here now. We'll have
what a time to be in the company.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy. So and what you
I didn't put the living benefits one on there, Brian. I didn't think about it.
Yeah, and the IUL, right? And we'll have there's videos for lock and reset. There's video on how index crediting works. There's video, and these videos are 4 minutes. But here's the other I think one of the most exciting videos that we have, and that talks about becoming a referral agent, right? So you think what we do is great and wonderful and fantastic and so on, but the problem is you don't have any money to put into it, or you don't have enough money to put into it, right? There's only one kind of money, not enough. Become a referral agent with us. Watch that video. And now for our brand new agents, they don't have to be good splainers. They just let the videos do the splaining.
Yeah. Hey, Brian.
Yes.
Slide down. And I don't remember exactly where it is. This is the one that's on here right at the moment, because believe this or not, we only threw this up this morning. So click that play button. I think it'll work. This is only a minute thumbnail, but you'll get the idea.
You've made a smart financial decision. You are now putting money into a retirement insurance contract from which you will withdraw tax-free income at retirement. Of course, the more money you can put into your contract, the more tax-free income you can take out of your contract during retirement. But here's the problem. You are already saving as much as you can afford to save. So how can you possibly put more money into your retirement insurance contract? Well, all of your friends and neighbors want tax-free retirement income too. In fact, everyone wants a plan to save, grow, and protect their money like the one you have. And if you will simply show them how, you can earn an average of $3,000 a month, which you can then add to your own retirement income plan. And it's not difficult. You simply begin by showing people a video like this one, a short 5-minute video that explains how a retirement insurance contract works.
Cool. You guys like that?
It's just got the thumbnails up right now. I didn't take the time to load the whole thing.
So what do? We just sit back now and kick our
The
feet
way
up?
we save for retirement in a 401k,
Exactly.
403b,
Don't start retiring just yet, Nate.
IRA, or SEP. Income taxes, investment losses, and management fees. And together they can reduce our retirement income by at least 30 or 40%. But they are all avoidable. How? With Internal Revenue Code sections 101 and 7702. These two provisions of the tax code allow us to earn interest on our money without taxation and receive income during retirement, also without taxation, and all without investment losses or management fees. Because we can take advantage of these tax code provisions with a contractual guarantee to credit our money with an interest rate based only on the gains of a stock market index, like the S&P 500, but without any of the index losses. Here's how it works. When the index increases,
Little snippet previews on there. So that's going to change the whole dynamic of, bring them to a website, walk them through the videos, have them watch a handful of videos, and then dump them into their discovery call and the rest of the process.
Wow.
Cool.
This is awesome. This is
Space age and do it all with a Zoom and a Zoom meeting. Now it's not going to replace here's the good news. If the insurance companies could replace the agent, they would do it, right? They wouldn't just pay us because they like us or whatever. They need us. They need us out there to provide that credibility to say, look, I've looked into this. I think this is great and wonderful. I would like for you to take a look at it as well. That's really the job and the role of the agent, is to introduce them to things that they normally would not have looked at in their everyday life. And look, I can understand your skepticism, and skepticism is good. Skepticism is a sign of intelligence. And I looked at it from a very skeptical point of view, did my homework and research, and you can't beat this with a stick. So
Not just that, you have agents who are just a few days or associates a few days into our team, and they can do this. They can duplicate this. This is a game changer.
it is awesome. Hey, Pauline.
Hi.
How are you?
I had it on mute. I had to find my speaker. I'm good, all in yourself.
Good stuff, huh?
Yes, it is.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're getting 11:30. We've got our discovery call at 11:30. I would recommend, sometimes ignorant enthusiasm on fire can generate a lot of interest and so on. Say, look, I don't know everything about everything, but you need to check this out, right? I promise you it's worth your time to check it out. Whether you become an agent, a client, both, neither, whatever, at least you can say you've taken a look at it and it's either for you or not for you, and that sort of thing. The last thing that I'm going to leave you with is this. I think that many times we're not thinking big enough. And I don't know about you, but I'm always challenging myself to think bigger and bigger and bigger. 10 team sales on a monthly basis is a 6-figure residual income. How long with these tools and what we have, how long will it take you to develop a team that does 10 team sales? A month, 3 months, 6 months? Okay, so everybody on here in 6 months can develop a 6-figure residual income in 6 months' time. Now, if you were working for the city or whatever, how many years does it take to develop a 6-figure pension? 20 years, 30 years, maybe,
Forever.
right? Forever, right? Now, I want to challenge you to think a little bit bigger. What does it take? You get 10 people on your team that do the same thing. That's $1 million a year. That's $100,000 a month. That's some serious. Now we're talking about some serious money, right? 6 figures per month. 6 figures is great, but why does it have to take a whole year to do it? And we will have folks on our team, right, Dominic? We will
That's
have
right.
folks on our team doing that.
Yeah.
Gerald?
Hey, Brian,
Yes, sir.
can I say one little thing since we're all kind of just talking, having a little family conversation? If you'll hang in here and spend, if you bring an agent on board, and I believe that you need to start them making money like yesterday, right? The sooner they make $1, the more they're going to make $1, right? But here's what I want you to hear from me, because I've been around a long time. I know I don't look over 40, but I've been around a long time. Oh, my wife laughed from the background. If you'll spend 30 minutes, if you'll spend 30 days with us, you will be more trained and more proficient than 85% of the agents out schlocking around out there. And I mean, think about that. You know, you never ever have to worry about doing something that's wrong, because number one, you're going to have a wingman, you're going to have a trainer to get you up and running. But the tools and technology that are becoming available to you, you're going to be the studs and studettes, in the world out there, if you just pay attention to it and start rocking and rolling. So anyway, there's my revival speech for the end of the call. But,
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Larry.
Outstanding.
All right. Hey, Nathan, Dominic, anything you guys want to add to that?
No, I'm cool.
The only thing I would add is the discovery call is in about 30 minutes. There's enough of us here on the team and on the call. If you're new, partner with somebody. Let's get on some 3-way calls. It's weekends are for winners. Let's get some people on the discovery call and finish strong.
Great job. Appreciate everyone being on. Wonderful training. Let's get busy. Let's go change lives and change our lives in the process. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Hey, President's Club. That was Carlos. All right. Carlos. President's Club, baby.
Oh, okay. I wanted to say, where the hell is Carlos?
Sneak attack.
I also got DeAndre with me here.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
What is the discovery call link? What is the discovery call link?
Do you want? Okay, 1 second. Let me post it in the chat.
Yeah. I'll put it on Facebook too, just so you know.
All right, thank you. Okay, let me grab it real quick. Just a second. Oh, there it is. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thanks, Autumn. All right, guys. I will see you guys in a minute. Anybody give me a call if you need any help, and let's rock.